I am pleased to update Parliament on the next steps that the Scottish Government will be taking regarding a heat and buildings bill. This Parliament agreed in 2019 that Scotland will end its contribution to global emissions as soon as possible and by no later than 2045. Our commitment to that ambition is unwavering. As outlined to Parliament on Tuesday, this Government is also committed to reducing fuel poverty through the limited devolved powers we hold. It is vital that we find the right balance to do both of these things, to reach net zero by 2045 and to reduce fuel poverty. We have already achieved a great deal when it comes to our transition to net zero. In 2023, 91.2% of electricity generated in Scotland was from zero or low carbon sources, and specifically 70.3% of electricity generated was from renewable sources. Our target for 6,000 public charge points was met 2 years ahead of schedule, and over 2 million children, young people, disabled and older people are now benefiting from free bus travel, making sustainable travel more accessible for everyone in Scotland. We have created almost 75% of the UK's new woodland since 2019, and an estimated 56% of homes are now rated EPC C or better, which is already an increase of 11 percentage points since 2019. So these are just a few of the many examples of tangible progress and Scottish Government actions which have taken us halfway to net zero. But we all need to do more. We need to see climate action in all areas, by individuals, households and businesses, and by all parts of government. The way we heat our buildings accounts for 19% of our country's total emissions. Scotland depends greatly on gas and other fossil fuels for heat. Nearly 90% of our homes use these fuels. In Europe, only the Netherlands has a similarly high dependence on gas to our own. Meanwhile, for communities that are off the gas grid, fuel poverty is even more prevalent, a subject I'll come to in a moment. Now, I raise all of this to underline just how significant an impact decarbonising our buildings will have. That's why the Heat in Buildings Bill is so important. As members know, we consulted on a range of proposals, and this consultation closed last year. It received over 1,600 responses, and I thank everyone who engaged in that process. We received a diverse range of views. Many people supported the need for legislation requiring energy efficiency standards and prohibiting certain heating in buildings. Others questioned that need. Having carefully considered those views and having listened to a range of stakeholders since the consultation concluded, I am today charting a new course consistent, I believe, with our goal of removing emissions from buildings by 2045. Our plan to deliver a revised bill responds to the legitimate reservations and concerns raised since our consultation completed, including the risk of exacerbating fuel poverty and burdening every individual householder with an overly onerous responsibility as we decarbonise. Now, Parliament is more than aware that many households, families and businesses across the UK are facing difficult circumstances right now. Despite promises from the new UK Government that energy bills would be lowered by £300, since October last year they have in fact risen by almost £300 a year. A unit of electricity presently costs around 4 times that of gas, and upfront costs for clean heating systems therefore remain higher than those for fossil fuel systems. A combination of all of these factors, combined with a severe cost of living crisis, makes it simply unaffordable for many building owners to make great changes in the near future. I believe that these challenges may be particularly pronounced for those in rural and island locations, whose needs and circumstances we must continue to consider carefully. I believe that all of these factors merit important changes in our approach, changes which demonstrate that we are listening and responding to the important concerns that people have raised. Our approach moves away from penalising individuals and instead commits to collective action. Instead of placing prohibitions on every homeowner, we will establish targets for government to reach. Rather than looking at action through the lens of decarbonising alone, we will also commit to doing everything within our power to reduce costs for people. I'm confirming today that we will introduce a Heat and Buildings Bill in this parliamentary session, which creates a target for decarbonising heating systems by 2045, sending a strong signal to homeowners, landlords and other building owners on the need to prepare for change while outlining collective actions to help do this. That will give the supply chain confidence to invest, and this underpins our existing work to progress to net zero through the range of support and interventions that are available to households seeking to transition their homes to non-polluting heating systems. The most obvious way we will do that is that our bill will boost heat network development by developing particular requirements for large non-domestic premises, including powers to require public sector buildings to connect to district heating when available. We will, of course, work with these building owners to ensure appropriate safeguards are developed, but these powers will help make more heat network projects investable, leading to greater choice for households and businesses on how to reach net zero. I intend our bill to enable and support flexibility. It will be technology neutral. Different properties and people will require different solutions. For example, clean heating solutions in some remote and rural areas may vary from urban areas. Reaching our target is likely to need a range of technologies, including bioenergy. Our bill will also include powers to set minimum energy efficiency standards for owner-occupier and non-domestic properties as part of a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions caused by heating systems. In the meantime, to improve the standard of rental properties and also help reduce fuel poverty, we will progress regulations under existing powers to introduce a minimum energy efficiency standard in the private rented sector. These regulations would mean all privately rented properties, as far as possible, reaching the equivalent of EPC C. This will improve those homes, reduce energy costs for tenants and support the transition to clean heating. My officials are working to prepare this bill for introduction in Year 5 of this Parliament. It would accompany our related work on a social housing net zero standard and EPC reform under existing powers. Presiding Officer, this bill will affect everyone, but it differs markedly from earlier iterations in that it isn't a prohibition but a target, and in that it isn't about placing all the onus on individual action, but emphasises a collective response. And the opportunities that it presents for Scotland are significant. This legislation builds on the Climate Change Act that this Parliament came together to pass in 2019, so I am confident that we share its overall intent. Following its introduction, I will work with members from all parties on the points of detail that underpin it, to ensure that it works for consumers, homeowners, businesses and rural and island communities.